tonight on Unsolved Mysteries.
Married only 3 months, Michelle Witherell died in this tragic fall. Her husband said it was an accident. Her family believes she was murdered. It was a whirlwind romance with a bitter, ironic twist. The groom was a convicted killer serving life in prison until he convinced his new wife to help him escape. Now her children would like to find her, and the police say she is free to come home without fear of punishment. Party time in Tijuana. But for this college student, the revelry proved fatal. Was Jason Artis hit by a car, or did he anger the Tijuana police? Carl McWilliams is friendly and personable. He is also a fugitive on the run from statutory rape charges. Police need your help. Experience a world of mystery, heartbreak, and intrigue. Join me for Unsolved Mysteries. A cold winter night in a small town near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The broken body of Michelle Witherell lay sprawled on the asphalt outside her apartment. Michelle was just 24 years old, a newlywed. She and her husband, Jeremy, had been living in Pittsburgh since their marriage 3 months earlier. They had moved from their home in Denver, expecting to build a new life. Now Michelle was in critical condition, bleeding heavily from severe head injuries.
What happened up there?
I don't know what happened.
Jeremy Witherell told police Michelle had fallen from their balcony 3 flights up. He said he had been playing solitaire in the living room of their apartment when he heard a sound. He stepped outside, looked over the railing, and saw his wife's body on the ground below. Paramedics rushed Michelle to the trauma unit at a Pittsburgh hospital. It was December 20th, 1992, just 5 days before Christmas. Within hours, Michelle's parents claimed Jeremy's mother called them with the awful news, and a second version of his story.
She told me that there had been a terrible accident and that Michelle had been out on the balcony at their apartment and that she'd been putting up Christmas lights and that the balcony had collapsed, causing her to fall.
Michelle and Jeremy Witherell had planned to go home to Denver for the holidays.
We're looking for Michelle Witherell.
Instead, Michelle's family flew to Pittsburgh on the first flight out.
Hey, baby.
The left side of Michelle's head was fractured and she was in a coma. In addition, her jaw was broken, but strangely, her nose and teeth were unharmed by the 3-story fall.
A big stronger.
At that very moment, I think questions were beginning to come into our thoughts. How did she get her eye busted open and her jaw broken with no damage in between?
Honey, why don't you sit down?
The Mellimas believe Michelle knew they were with her and tried her best to let them know.
He's squeezing my hand.
Hang in there, sweetheart.
We really think that her squeezing Ev's hand, she was telling us goodbye.
And then the doctor walked in from the back and said that, "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to leave. Michelle has died."
It would seem only 2 people in the world knew how Michelle had been injured. One of them was now gone. Michelle's parents claim that moments later, Jeremy Witherell came up with another version, a third version of how she fell.
So what happened, Jeremy?
We just got home from dinner, and I was playing a game of solitaire. And Michelle and I, we weren't even talking. And then she went out to the balcony for something. And when I looked up, there she was hanging. And I should have got her. She was just barely hanging there. I could have got her.
Jeremy Witherell declined to be interviewed. However, he claims he gave just one version of Michelle's fall, that he only discovered she had fallen when he saw her body on the ground below. The Melamas still insist they were given 3 different stories. 3 stories or one? Who is right? According to detectives, the Witherells were having trouble in their marriage. They say Jeremy admitted arguing with Michelle that evening while driving back from a restaurant, an argument that continued at home.
What do you mean? I don't have to listen to you.
Neighbors say Michelle and Jeremy had been fighting frequently, fights so loud one neighbor complained repeatedly to the building manager.
Violence is what she called it, physically throwing each other around the apartment. And somewhere in the area of 1 to 3 weeks before Michelle's death, she came into my office and said, in no uncertain terms, she said, someone's going to get killed up there. And she was very frightened. She was scared.
And then I ran out to the balcony, I looked over, and there was Michelle.
The Melamas became more and more suspicious. They began questioning the police investigation.
That's the whole story.
When the detectives would start out by saying, well, Jeremy says, our thought was, well, you guys are homicide detectives. You were called into this evidently for a reason. Now, if all you're telling us is what Jeremy says, what's the point?
If this man is a suspect in a homicide, and by his own admission, he said he was the only one there, then why would you take his word?
The Melamas found troubling inconsistencies in Jeremy's account. 1. Michelle's wrists were broken, but her palms were completely unscratched. If she fractured her wrist trying to break her fall, her palms should have been cut. 2. One of Michelle's shoes was discovered 26 feet from her body. The other shoe was never found. And finally, Jeremy Witherell took the time to double-lock his apartment before allegedly racing to his wife's side. Unscathed palms, a missing shoe, a locked door. The Melamas wondered why. According to the police, Jeremy Witherell took not 1 but 2 polygraph tests. They say he passed both. The Allegheny County coroner officially labeled the cause of Michelle's death as undetermined: homicide, accident, or suicide. The Melamas insist it couldn't have been suicide.
Michelle had a high regard for life. Michelle was a happy person. Michelle had so many goals in life, and when she had made the statement to me about separating from Jeremy, she had dealt with the situations in her marriage that she was not pleased with. And she had also made her plan on how to remedy those situations, and that was to separate and ask that Jeremy get professional help.
The Melamas also believed the accident theory was unlikely. The balcony was 48 inches, chest high for Michelle.
The wall was too high for anybody to lose their balance. It wasn't a poorly constructed balcony. It was very adequate in height to prevent something like that from happening.
Michelle's parents sent her medical records to 3 board-certified forensic pathologists. Their unanimous verdict: Michelle was murdered, but possibly not by a fall. According to forensic experts, if Michelle had fallen 3 stories, she should have had injuries on both sides of her brain.
The head injuries that Michelle Witherell demonstrated at her autopsy were quite extensive, but these were all left-sided. These injuries are what we call coup, direct impact injuries, as from a blow.
Weck says Michelle's other injuries also indicated an assault. In addition, what wasn't harmed is significant. Her pelvis was unbroken, and her internal organs were undamaged.
That is extremely inconsistent, very atypical of the kinds of injuries that we would find in a fall.
Another red flag. Michelle's body was allegedly found more than 9 feet from the building.
If I had to pick one single physical factor in this case that leads me to the conclusion that it was not an accidental fall or a suicidal fall, it would be that. Somebody can dive in a suicidal attempt and leap several feet away from the building, or you can be thrown and wind up several feet from the building. You do not accidentally fall and wind up 9 feet. The body doesn't bounce.
Finally, the Allegheny County Coroner's Office opened the first official inquiry into the case. The verdict was quick and clear.
We will amend the original from undetermined to homicide.
We're thankful for the outcome of the hearing today.
The coroner's ruling didn't specify how Michelle died, but her parents feel certain they know.
Don't you raise your voice to me!
Don't talk to me like that! If you keep that I'm leaving you!
I think that night she made the mistake of telling Jeremy she was going to leave him. We think she ran from the apartment, fleeing for her life at that point. And the assault, you know, she was then found and assaulted outside of the apartment.
The Mellimas believe the balcony story was a quickly improvised cover-up, a safe way for Jeremy Witherell to explain Michelle's injuries. While no one on Jeremy's side was willing to be interviewed, they emphasized that despite the Mellimas' suspicions, Jeremy did pass a police polygraph twice.
We told Jeremy from the day Michelle died that we want to find out and we plan to find out everything there is to find out about what happened to Michelle, and we will pursue justice in this case no matter where it takes us.
Next, he was a convicted murderer. She was a lonely widow. Together they staged a daring prison break.
All right, make a wish and blow those candles out.
Sherry Nickerson's 15th birthday was hardly a joyous event. She was living with her uncle's family, and though they did their best, it was impossible to pretend anyone was happy.
I was numb. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't happy. It was the worst birthday of my life.
Small wonder. Sherry's party included a number of uninvited guests, Oklahoma State troopers stationed inside the house and out. They were there because of a crime involving Sherry's mother, a crime committed 9 days earlier.
Let's go!
2 lifers had escaped from a nearby Oklahoma prison. Sherry's mother, Donna Moses Brown, had driven the getaway car. Sherry's mom has been on the run ever since. However, she has never been charged with any crime because both her family and the authorities view her as a victim. A lonely widow, so desperate for love that she could be manipulated by a convicted killer named Michael Wayne Brown.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Michael.
I know. I'm Donna.
Ironically, it was a good deed that introduced Donna to Brown's world. Her church group started writing letters to convicts to help them find spiritual comfort. But these pen pals quickly became more.
You know, I don't know if I could make it in this place if it wasn't for those letters that I get from you.
Oh, well, you know, whatever we can do to help.
No, you do. I mean, you do so much. You're always so supportive.
Oh, you know, you write real sweet letters, too.
I cannot get over how beautiful you are.
Oh.
She was lonely. She hadn't had anybody for a very long time. And she needed that companionship, you know, someone, you know, to talk to her about things and show her love and affection. And that's what she got from him.
How you doing?
I'm okay. It's hard. He spoke with her. and I think that that's pretty much all that mattered. He wrote her. It was somebody new in her life, and I think that it probably could have been anybody to him, but she was the victim that fell into the line of fire, I guess.
Look what I brought you.
Oh, wow. These are great.
Michael Wayne Brown, like a lot of the men that are incarcerated for long periods of time, they really don't have any concern for other people's rights or lives. They've got all the time in the world to scheme on people, and they get quite good at it. They can sell you a chainsaw in the desert.
She wrote him every day. She talked to him on the phone every day. It kind of started and went full force. There was no slowing down.
I think Donna Brown was under the misconception that Michael Wayne Brown was just a misunderstood young man who, through unfortunate circumstances, was doing time.
But Michael Wayne Brown was hardly misunderstood. Everyone but Donna knew what he was. And what he was a cold-blooded killer. 9 years earlier, when Brown was only 18, he and another teenager, Dennis Woodward, burglarized an insurance office in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
What are you doing here? Huh? What are you doing here? Shut up!
Insurance investigator Richard Sullivan picked the wrong time to stop by for a file.
Turn around. Turn around and face the wall. Give me the gun. Turn around.
Brown was very, very hyper after that event. He said, I killed him, almost bragging about it. He looks over at Woodward and he said, if I had one more bullet, I would have shot his eyes out. And thereafter, they went off to have breakfast at a local restaurant.
While Brown was eating his bacon and eggs, 41-year-old Richard Sullivan bled to death on his office floor. He left behind a wife and a young daughter. Michael Wayne Brown was put on death row for murdering Richard Sullivan. However, that sentence was later commuted to life without parole. By the time Brown met Donna Moses in 1984, he had spent 9 years in prison. Meanwhile, Donna had served a different kind of time. She had been married twice and widowed twice. Both husbands had been murdered. Raising 2 children on her own was a constant struggle. Perhaps it was just another ironic twist in Donna's hard-luck life that she now found herself in love with a murderer 10 years her junior.
It was consuming her too much. You know, she didn't have time for anything else but him. I mean, she could visit him every weekend, and it was like the whole week was preparing to see him.
This is your copy. Good.
There she is. Hi.
Less than 3 months after Brown first met Donna, he performed a brief transformation from shackled prisoner to eager bridegroom.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Do you, Michael Wayne Brown, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love her and to cherish her, for as long as you both might live?
I do.
And do you, Donna Moses, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and to cherish him from this day forward, as long as you both shall live?
I do.
I love you.
Moments after the ceremony, the honeymoon was over. Brown, back in shackles in Prison Orange, was returned to his cell. Donna sent her children to stay with relatives and followed Brown as he was transferred from prison to prison, sometimes living out of her car. Between visiting days, she wrote letters. Michael Wayne Brown became Donna's whole world. In November of 1984, Brown was transferred to a minimum security prison. It was a perfect opportunity, and Brown wasted little time. Less than 3 weeks later, Michael Wayne Brown and another inmate jumped a 4-foot fence and raced for freedom. By the time guards discovered them missing, it was too late.
Let's go, let's go!
Police have remained a step or two behind Brown ever since. A few days after the escape, they tracked him to Paris, Texas, but missed him by a matter of minutes. Since then, Brown is known to have lived in Kentucky, New Jersey, Texas, and Virginia. For 3 years, Donna's family had no word from her, no idea if she was alive or dead. Finally, in 1987, Donna Brown made an unexpected call to her daughter.
Hello?
Hi, Sherry?
Yeah?
Hi, it's me, Mom.
Mom. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm out of Oklahoma, but I want to come home. Michael and I broke up, but
You know, it was just kind of a quick thing, and that's all. She told me she loved me, and that was it.
Though Donna had said she wanted to come home, she never did. 4 years went by. Donna called again, asking if she had grandchildren. At that time, she didn't. Since then, however, Donna's children, Sherry and David, have each had a son. Both would like nothing more than to introduce the boys to their long-lost grandmother.
I'm afraid that she's afraid that we don't want her back. I'm afraid that my mom feels like that she did something really bad and that she can't face us anymore. How are we going to act to her? And what I say to her is, it's okay.
There is nothing to stop Donna Brown from rejoining her family, except Donna Brown. She can come home at any time.
There's no arrest warrant either issued by the state of Oklahoma or by the federal government for her. She's not wanted on any charges, and in fact, we would encourage her, if she's no longer with Brown, or if in fact she is with Brown, to immediately contact the authorities.
Coming up, a college student clashed with Tijuana police. His family believes the police retaliated. Tijuana. It's been one of Mexico's most popular border towns for decades, especially for college students. Hundreds hit nightclubs every weekend, hunting big fun at bargain rates. But a good time doesn't always come cheap. It can cost you your life. 1:30 a.m., Tijuana time. Stephen Thomas was looking for his brother Jason in the crowds partying on Avenida Revolucion. They'd become separated while heading back to their car.
I looked to the right of me. I turned around, my brother wasn't there. I mean, it was like that.
An hour and a half after Jason disappeared, a Tijuana police officer discovered his battered body in the road.
Jason was drinking, and he was loud and obnoxious and maybe out of control. That night, I believe that Jason was murdered by the Tijuana police.
20-year-old Jason Otis had moved from Virginia to Los Angeles 1 year earlier to go to college. The week before his death, he brought his younger brother Stephen out for a visit. They spent a week touring the top tourist spots in Los Angeles. Then Jason decided he couldn't let Stephen go back home without showing him a good time south of the border. Saturday night, August 1st, 1998. Tijuana's main drag, Avenida Revolucion, was packed with party people. The feel of fiesta was part of the draw, but for many, the loose drinking laws were the biggest attraction. That night, Jason, Steve, and their friend Michael Justin started bar hopping about 9, mostly hitting places that offered all you could drink for less than $5. Jason was usually friendly and easygoing, but he had a reputation as a rowdy drinker. By the time he ran into a tequila vendor, he was already a little drunk. He didn't realize that tequila cost extra, $6 a shot.
Go! Now you owe me $12. $12? You crazy, man!
Jason didn't want to give up the money. So I just said, Jason, give him the money. Just give him the money and let's get out of here. You know what I'm saying? This ain't the spot we need to be at.
Jason and Stephen left Michael at the bar and went back out on the strip.
My strategy was to hurry up and find the car so we can go sit down. We're kind of drunk, you know what I'm saying, walking around Tijuana. We were walking down the street, and that's when my brother accidentally bumped into a female officer.
According to Stephen, another Tijuana police officer had tried to shake them down earlier that evening, demanding cash or jewelry. Jason was still angry.
We're American citizens. We're just trying to get home, all right?
Tell her we ain't got no money.
We have no money. No money, okay? I swear. We have no money on it.
But I was kind of frustrated at my brother for the simple fact of being that drunk. My feelings was just, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to get back to Van Nuys.
Look, Jason, man, you acting crazy, man. This ain't our country. You almost just got...
I told him, walk behind me. Come on, let's hurry up and try to find this car.
You like to go check for the car, so just keep moving, all right?
Yeah,
you gonna be
all
straight
right.
with that?
I'll keep moving, okay? You
all
just
right.
go on and find the car.
He's like 3 or 4 yards behind me at first. That's when I walked up some more to another block. So I walked up, I looked to the right, and I looked behind me, and my brother wasn't there. My first reaction was probably that he's sitting down on a curb somewhere or sitting up against a building or anything like that, you know what I'm saying, because we were kind of intoxicated.
Soon after Stephen lost sight of Jason, Michael Justin claims he spotted him in the back of a police car.
I looked and I said, what is he doing in the back of a police car? They were the last people I saw Jason with. I saw Jason with my own eyes in the back of a police car, like I know my hand.
Michael and Stephen never saw Jason again. 2 days later, the American consulate sent word that Jason was dead. His aunt, Tina Martin Smith, went to Tijuana to identify the body.
I remember thinking, this is not Jason there. Jason is somewhere in a jail in Tijuana, and someone has robbed him, and they've taken his ID, and this person is in the morgue. And I looked down, and it was Jason. It was Jason.
Tijuana authorities told Jason's family he must have gotten lost trying to make his way back to the border. The authorities called it a tragic hit-and-run accident, but there were a number of unanswered questions.
I believe that it had something to do with the police. I feel that for a fact. After Michael told me that he seen my brother in the back of a police car, there's gotta be something up there.
Tijuana police deny that allegation. They say they never had Jason Artis in custody.
We check and double check almost the whole month of August, and there is no detention with that name. Sometimes it happens that they miswrite the name in our computer, so we run it with the 3 names. We found nothing.
Jason's family got a copy of the autopsy report through the American consulate and had it translated into English.
Nothing was adding up. First of all, they stated that Jason was hit by a car, and we had these conflicting things. We had the photos of him with no injuries to his lower extremities, with these unexplained 5-inch marks all over his body and chest area and in his face.
At the request of Unsolved Mysteries, 3 forensic pathologists reviewed the autopsy report. One said Jason's death did indeed appear to be the result of a simple hit and run. 2 others, however, agreed that the inconsistencies were puzzling.
I would be very skeptical of the autopsy findings and the assertion that this was simply a hit-and-run accident. One has to apply a high degree of skepticism to the entire autopsy, in my view.
For instance, the Tijuana coroner claimed the car had hit Jason in the chest hard enough to rupture his heart.
In order for a blunt blow to get through the sternum and rupture the heart, it would have to virtually crush the chest. And it's quite evident from the autopsy that chest is not badly mashed. There are no bruises on it. There are no big hematomas. So that becomes incredible. The autopsy report becomes incredible.
Another point, Jason's injuries included head wounds that might easily have been the result of a beating.
Certainly the lesions around the head and the skull, which were severe, are certainly consistent with the butt of a rifle or any other sharp or even blunt object that could be used on an individual.
I believe that he was beaten, and after he was beaten, perhaps in an attempt to destroy the evidence, that they perhaps ran over and or drug him. And I believe that when he was run over, that he was already dead.
Though Tijuana authorities say the case is still under investigation, they also believe Jason's family may be overreacting.
We have had responses from the families in conflict with the saying of the autopsy and the statement from our department. Even sometimes where there are witnesses of an accident and there is a driver responsible for the accident, there have been some families stating that they are not accepting that it was an accident.
Maybe he should have gone to jail for the night, but he didn't. Nobody deserves to die that way.
Next, Tara Roy was losing her battle with cancer until she touched the headstone of a little girl who died over 3 decades earlier. Lourdes, France, Fatima, Portugal, and Medjugorje in the former Yugoslavia. Every year they come by the millions, the dying, the disabled, the sick at heart. They come in the hope of being miraculously healed, in the hope of being touched by God. Now many are making a pilgrimage to a new Mecca for miracles, the tomb of a young girl buried in a small graveyard in a tiny town in rural Louisiana. Her name was Charlene Richard. Many people say that even from the grave, she has the power to heal. One of those was Nicole Price. When Nicole was 2 years old, she was diagnosed with a lethal cancer. She was expected to die within months, perhaps less. She and her family prayed for Charlene's help. They believe that thanks to Charlene Richard, Nicole lived not just a few months, but 9 more years.
I feel that Charlene's intervention in Nicole's life gave us the 9 extra years we had with her. I feel somehow God reached out through Charlene and touched Nicole.
Donald Ledger also believes in Charlene's healing power. In 1979, Donald, a sergeant in the United States Army, had an accidental fall that injured his feet, shattering both heels. Doctors doubted he would ever walk again. Donald started praying to Charlene. To everyone's surprise, he didn't just walk, he even started running.
Without the intercession of Charlene, I feel that I would not be able to walk. I truly believe this. I believe in miracles, I do.
But who was Charlene Richard? It was 1959. Charlene had leukemia and was suffering great pain. Yet when Father Brennan found the courage to tell her she was dying, it was she who comforted him.
Father Brennan, when I see the Blessed Mother, I'll tell her that you said hello.
During her last days, Charlene thought often of others. She believed in the Catholic idea that one person's suffering can save another. Though she was dying, she selflessly offered her pain as redemption for other patients in the hospital.
When the sickness came and the pain came, she grew in crisis. she became great.
Charlene prayed for others every day for 2 weeks, even as her own time was running out.
I will be gone tomorrow. I want to say goodbye. I will be praying for you.
The next day, Charlene died.
I felt a presence in that room of the divine. There was a aura of peace in that room.
Charlene's death deeply touched her small community. Over the years, word spread of her courage and saintly ways. People started praying to her, asking her to intercede for them with God. Now thousands gather each year for a memorial mass. More and more say they've experienced Charlene's power to heal firsthand. In 1994, 21-year-old Tara Roy developed colon cancer.
She was diagnosed with a Duke's Class C, Stage 3 carcinoma. And I've done enough research and reading about it to where I know that you don't come back from those.
Tara started heavy doses of chemotherapy. Despite its debilitating side effects, she was determined not to give in to the disease.
I didn't want this to interfere with my life, but I didn't want it to totally take over, and dictate what I would do and how I would do it. I just wanted to be a college student and go to class and do my job.
But Tara's determination wasn't enough to make her better. Every day she felt worse. She soon felt she needed more than medicine. Tara and her parents started making frequent trips to Charlene's grave. On their last trip, however, Tara was so sick they thought she might die within weeks.
With the cumulative chemotherapy kicking in real strong, we almost turned around and came home.
I didn't want to go. I felt terrible. It was probably one of those days that I just didn't want to do anything. Laying in bed was a challenge. Deep down, I wanted to go to the grave that day. I just didn't physically feel up to it at all.
Tara knelt by Charlene's grave as usual. Then some impulse inspired her to do something she had never done before. With her fingers, she traced the letters of Charlene's name.
And in about 20 seconds, she turned around and she was transformed. And when I saw her, I was stunned.
I felt like, a lot had been lifted right then, just like a weight off my shoulder was lifted right then.
Pop, I'm gonna be okay.
I just felt that I definitely would be healthy again, and I would beat this.
Tara did beat it, both the cancer and the effects of the chemotherapy. She is now back to being a healthy and happy young woman. She finished college, went on to get a master's degree in social work, and is engaged to be married.
I saw the hand of God. I saw what I needed to see that day. We saw a miracle, no doubt.
Does the spirit of Charlene Richard reach out from her grave to help those who send her their prayers? Skeptics aren't convinced. Yet for the thousands who visit Charlene's grave, the answer is an unwavering yes. Next, help authorities catch Carl McWilliams, wanted by State College Police for child molestation. Recently, authorities in Pennsylvania contacted us with a request to profile a fugitive considered to be very manipulative and dangerous. Please watch closely. You may be able to help put this individual behind bars. State College, Pennsylvania. A young mother struggling to raise her 3 young children alone met Carl McWilliams in the fall of 1992. He lived only a few doors away, and they were both students at Pennsylvania State University. The two became friends, and eventually Carl McWilliams became like family. For the sake of her children, their mother, who we will call Sarah, asked that we not reveal her identity.
Carl was a very personable man. He was friendly. He got along beautifully with my children. They adored him. He was, to me, like the perfect father figure for my children.
The fact was, Carl McWilliams was a convicted child molester. He had spent 6 years in prison for molesting his 8-year-old daughter. One day, Sarah came home from work early to find Carl McWilliams had become her worst nightmare. He was allegedly locked in a bedroom with her young daughter.
He opened the door, and he was as pale as a ghost, and he had broken out into a real cold sweat. And even till this day, it's something so vile that I could never even put a handle on it. I couldn't imagine someone doing that to a 5-year-old child.
Sarah and her children moved away from the area, and for 7 years she anguished about whether to report the incident to police.
I felt that if I exposed them to the police and agencies, that it would be worse for the girls. And I felt it was better for me as their mother to try to handle it.
Finally, Sarah realized the police needed to know about McWilliams' behavior. Authorities found Carl McWilliams living with another woman and her children just 2 miles from the neighborhood Sarah and her children had fled. Carl McWilliams was ordered to leave the house and relocated to a nearby motel while police investigated the allegations against him.
He stayed there one night and checked out the next morning, and that's the last indication of any specific location that we knew he possibly could have been.
Carl McWilliams has been charged with rape, statutory rape, aggravated indecent assault, and indecent assault. He is most likely working in the logging industry in the United States or Canada.
Carl has on occasion changed his appearance. He's changed his hairstyle. He's changed his glasses style, or maybe lost a little weight, gained a little weight. It wouldn't surprise me right now if he is somewhere living with another woman who has little girls, because that's what he does.
I think it's important that he is caught so that he doesn't have the opportunity to do this to other children. No one has that right to violate a child like that.
Join me for the next fascinating edition of Unsolved Mysteries.